Alright, let's talk about Space Jam: A New Legacy. And boy, let's really talk about Space Jam: A New Legacy. I looked at the first movie last year just because I felt like it, but to keep it brief if you haven't seen the review, it's such a corporate product of the 90s and is unironically a bad movie, but it's also one I enjoy regardless. It's clearly a corporate product that wants to sell toys, but the movie pretty much knows that and doesn't shy away from its ridiculousness and just has a lot of fun with itself. Space Jam 2, on the other hand, is much worse in every aspect, and I cannot be kind about that. I know there's a lot of so bad they're good movies that people can enjoy, which I would have for this one if it wasn't one of the most boring and quite frankly annoying movies I've seen this year. No, I did not enjoy this movie either ironically or unironically. And that's kind of a problem. The story, which I'm going to try and sum up as simple as I can, is about LeBron James this time, and he's being a very strict father to his son who wants to pursue the art of video games rather than a basketball player, all because this is what his own father did years ago. They're soon invited to the actual Warner Brothers studio for a movie deal, all thanks to the Warner 3000 Software's AI, LG Rhythm, played by none other than Don Cheadle himself. He's become self-aware and grown an obsession for more recognition in the world, so he lures LeBron and his son to the basement server room and traps them in the Warner Brothers serververse. Try saying that 3 times fast. Serververse. See, I kinda lost track. And the only way for them to earn their freedom is, of course, playing a basketball game with the Looney Tunes. Did you give a single shit about anything I just told you? No? Well, you better, because this movie really wants to suck you into its overarching stories, making this movie almost 2 hours long. Why? I didn't come to see LeBron having son problems or LG wanting more recognition. I came to see the Looney Tunes playing basketball. The first movie clearly didn't give a shit about its story, because once it got to Michael Jordan landing in the Looney Tunes world, the plot takes a major backseat so it can indulge itself in its ridiculous nature. Plus, it was only 80 minutes, which is the perfect runtime for a movie like it. This movie, meanwhile, tries so hard to take itself seriously that it all feels like a slog. I don't give a shit about any of the stories this movie has, both for being overused and for being so badly written. I can't help but feel Space Jam 2 is more so trying to be its own thing rather than a sequel to the first one, which I would be fine with if it wasn't so smug in making nods to the first one all the time. It never shuts up about that, saying things like, oh, having an NBA player be the star of a movie is stupid, which just leaves me wondering, what is this movie trying to make me feel? Like it's a faithful sequel? A standalone story? A parody? A homage? I literally have no idea because the movie can't decide on how to handle its story that it sucks me out completely. And the cherry on top of that is towards the very end of the movie when Bugs Bunny sacrifices himself to win the game. They treat this so seriously that I laughed my ass off. You know how all of this takes place in a Warner Brothers serververse? Well, the movie's full of several Warner Brothers homages and features characters from other universes. So with that said, what kind of role are the Looney Tunes supposed to serve here? The first one was simple. It was about the Looney Tunes potentially becoming slaves to the aliens and they needed to win a basketball game to maintain their freedom. Here, it's not about the Looney Tunes anymore. It's about LeBron James having son problems and it's more about them fighting for their own freedom. I'm guessing the Looney Tunes are only here because A, LeBron met them first, or B, because it's a Space Jam movie and we can't have Space Jam without the Looney Tunes. Warner Brothers have become so stubborn recently in barely giving the characters of their own movie the spotlight they truly deserve. Nobody came to Scoob for a Hanna-Barbera crossover, nobody came to Tom and Jerry to see an unlikable bitch dealing with wedding drama, and nobody came to Space Jam 2 wanting to see family drama, which I would be fine with if it was entertaining like Back in Action, but it's not. The countless references to other Warner Brothers properties is nothing more than, hey guys, look at this, we've got these characters in the movie, indulge in your nostalgia, which just makes the movie even more insufferable to go through. Now of course, that isn't to say they didn't try with Looney Tunes in some areas. They tried to give Lola a personality instead of being a sex object, but now they've just turned her into a token strong girl for all the little ones to look up to, making her have even less of a personality than before. Why couldn't they just use the one Lola from the Looney Tunes show? Oh, and to make matters worse, Lola is voiced by a celebrity, for no reason. And it sucks even more when you find out that Kath Soucie, Lola's original voice actress, was brought on board to voice the character at first until they tossed her out at the last minute in favor of more celebrity milking. And while we're on the topic of characters, we may as well address what everyone's waiting for me to talk about, Don Cheadle as LG Rhythm. I like his performance, he does get a few laughs out of the film, but I do not understand the character. His whole motive for trapping everyone want in the serververse is because he yearns for more recognition in the world. You know that's not going to work when you've trapped everybody in a world they can't escape from, right? Plus, this guy has full control over the digital world, so why did he even bother making a way for the Looney Tunes to actually win the basketball game? He's not above cheating, so what was even the point? I already talked about how problematic Lola is, and the rest of the cast just aren't that funny here. And don't even get me started on that rap scene. If you want a film that embodies everything cynical about the 2010s, well, you've got Space Jam: A New Legacy. Some might say I was taking this movie too seriously and that I should just be enjoying it as a hilariously awful commercial. Or maybe people would just call me a hypocrite for enjoying the first one but disliking this. Except I would have enjoyed it more ironically if the movie wasn't preoccupied trying not to be a Space Jam movie that a lot of its elements combined with the runtime make it feel more shallow than fun. The first Space Jam is shallow too, I'll give it that, but it wasn't trying to be anything more than a silly basketball movie without trying to cover up the corporate side it had from day one. It's bad, but it's also harmless enough for me to embrace the silly nature of it. Space Jam: A New Legacy, meanwhile, is so far up its own ass with trying to be an epic movie with all these Warner Brothers characters showing up and overarching stories that it wants me to take seriously, but I just can't. There's a more noticeable corporate side with it that's so frustrating that it reminds me of Ralph Breaks the Internet. The lack of focus on the Looney Tunes characters doesn't help much either. I may pity it from time to time and enjoy a few things here and there, but I'm never going to remember it in the same vein as the first one. I can't blame anybody for enjoying it as such, but this ain't the match for me.